Hello, everyone. It's Rosalind again. So, you know what that means. That means it's time for Real Talk Now. Joyfully courageous. We have the group here tonight. We have them here because we want to let you know that courage doesn't always roar. Sometimes courage is the little voice at the end of the day that says, you know what, I will try again tomorrow. Joyfully courageous is not a braggadocious term that attempts to portray that all is good. It is not a person beating on their chest declaring, I can do it easily. It is not just a physical act of bravery. It also means speaking out when others choose to be quiet. It can include following a dream when others say it's not possible. It could include feeling afraid yet choosing to act anyway. Bravery often involves reflecting on one's past in order to heal, in order to purge. And so we can summon the courage for us to live in the present and to live beyond. Yes. Most importantly, we want you to remember it requires us depending on our Father, not a man, to guide us through the ups and the downs of our existence. Now, my guests tonight are a beautiful, as you all can see, a beautiful group of sisters that have agreed to come here in a unified effort. A unified effort. Isn't it beautiful when sisters can come together on one accord to show us how they had to and they continue to thrive through life? Joyfully courageous. We will discuss different aspects of being single and how they are joyfully thriving through that singleness while also being an inspiration to many. Yes. Now, Miss Kim, I want you to come forward and I want you to introduce yourself and the ladies to the family. And let's have a discussion, a intimate discussion about what it means to be joyfully courageous. Love it.
Hello, everyone. My name is Kimberly Hardy, and I'm so excited to be here with Mama Roz, Sister Dr. Roz, as I call her. This project comes from the concept that God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power of and of a sound mind. Each of the women, the 17 women that were part of the Joyfully Courageous Project, are also a member of a community called Jesus Sprinkle. It is a community by and for single Christian women, encouraging one another along in our singleness journey. We are choosing God. We are choosing to serve Him with great purpose. And so, Joyfully Courageous is birthed from that, this desire, this emphasis, this intentionality around living on purpose. So, the authors that I have here with me today are Kendra, Kimberly K, Adney, Arvelia, Denise, Michelle, Renee, Amber, Latanya, and Alicia rather. Each one of these women went back to that place of pain, went back to that place of struggle, went back to that place of learning the lesson that God had for them. And they went back to that place and told their story. Our stories range from things like barrenness, they range from things like um, taking care of elderly parents, heartbreak, all of the things, even church hurt, all of the things, and childhood trauma. And why did we write from this space? Because we know that wherever we were going through, God Himself met us there. Holy Spirit met us there. Jesus carried us through those times. So, Joyfully Courageous is about God being the hero in every story for every reason at all times. And because God is the hero, because he walks with us, because he goes before us. If you think about the children, those three Hebrew boys, God sent, I'm going to say Jesus. He sent what looked like an angel to walk with them through that fire. There is a song that says, "There was another in that fire standing next to me. There was another at the waters holding back the sea. And if I ever need reminding what power has set me free, there is almost no burden of what Jesus did for me. Father, Holy Spirit walked with us through every journey that is mentioned in this book. And so now I'm so excited to bring on these women who are a part of this project. I'm excited to engage in this conversation around being joyfully courageous.
Love it. I so love it. Okay, let's start our little conversation here. Thank you, Kim. I appreciate that. So, like I said, my group are this group we have tonight are a group of strong ladies that I'm so proud of to have had the opportunity to get to know you all. So, my first question, or let's first talk about vulnerability. Vulnerability in your singleness. Now, reason why I want us to discuss this because this is sometimes a task we must sometimes learn. Sometimes we have to learn to be vulnerable because of the protection, the protective nature of our hearts. I've been there. And I'm still there sometimes because you must protect your heart. You must protect your spirit. But are we allowing that protection to be so much that we are not allowing Him to come in? Okay? Now, I think I want to have Kim, Renee, and Dawn in no particular order. Tell me your thoughts there because you all are the experts here. I'm just graced to be in your presence. Tell me about that. What do you think about that? Yeah,
Well,
that's fine.
yeah.
I would say, it's a scary place to be in, to be vulnerable. Like to be vulnerable, you have to be totally trusting because what I feel like being single and in the body, um, there's a lot of judgment that comes, and there's a lot of judgment, but there's not a lot of support, and that makes it scary, and it's a I don't know. I don't want to say it's a dangerous place to be in, but what I will say is that there's nothing wrong with me. I am not so messed up because I'm single. I'm not single because I was so messed up. I'm not single because I did a whole lot of stuff wrong. I just it's a scary place to have to open yourself up and open your heart up in your singleness. Yeah.
I love it. I love it.
I'll
That's
I'll talk a little bit. I was thinking about the vulnerability of writing the chapter that I worked on. And I think that part of being vulnerable for me is speaking about something when the thing that you've desired hasn't happened yet. And I think that it takes a lot of courage to go ahead and talk it while you're moving through it. And I also think that that can strengthen others because I think the thing that we found is that as we spoke this out loud to each of us, even though we told all types of stories, shared many of those similar thoughts. And so being vulnerable while going through helps build this network and this support group for yourself.
love it. Love it.
And
Okay.
just to add on to Don and Renee, when it comes to the vulnerability piece, it does go back to that trust factor, especially when, because I know in my chapter, I spoke on like just being broken. So a lot of times when I was in like this setting where I had the opportunity to be vulnerable, I didn't trust my surrounding, which my surrounding didn't have anything to do with my hurt. But because of what I had to go through, I didn't trust anyone, if that makes sense. So as I continue to grow and continue to heal through the process, I had to give myself permission to say, Kim, it's okay. This is a safe space for you to be open, for you to be vulnerable, and just allow others to hear, your story, to allow others to be able to know what you went through and how you were able to overcome it. So I know number one, the key thing is when it comes to discernment was very powerful as well when it comes to being vulnerable because you can't give everything to everyone, if that makes sense. So I think psychological safety is very important when it comes to being vulnerable and also giving yourself permission to say, hey, this is a safe place. It's okay for you to share.
I love that. Kim, you said something that I want us to sit on for a moment. Okay. You said discernment. That's a powerful word right there. And I'm not going to say because someone gets of a certain age in life or a certain point in life, they gain discernment. Discernment is crucial. Once you start learning someone's spirit, and it's okay if you don't rock with everyone, you're not going to. But once you learn that spirit, that discernment, then you know how to shift with people. Okay, even though, like I said, you may not rock with them, that don't mean you leave them either. Okay, and that's crucial what you said. I'm glad you said that because that takes bravery as well. Listening, because how many times have we had that tell us, don't go there, and you're fighting it each. No, no, no. Let me stay here, and I'm fighting it each time. Okay, let me stay there. I've done it many times, and I have learned not to because I've bumped my head enough time to realize you need to start listening and stop making all these mistakes. So thank you for saying that. Beautiful ladies. Anyone want to add anything there? Okay. All right. Y'all
I
doing?
will say that
Uh-huh. Go
um,
ahead.
just something real quick in your vulnerability, you do find freedom though, because the very things that seem to hold you back or keep you bound, now that you're able to be vulnerable, you're free from it. And even if somebody says something to you negative, it's like, well, I've already said it. What else you got? And then on the other side, you have other people that are just blessed by it. So it does add that extra layer of freedom as well.
Mm. I want you to say that again, Kendra.
It
Michelle, I
adds an
got
extra
you.
layer
I
of
got
freedom.
you. I just want her to repeat that again because I'm hearing that. Say that one more time.
It adds an extra layer of freedom when you're vulnerable.
Whew, I love it. Go ahead, Miss Michelle.
Yeah, I was just gonna say in relation to the discernment, when you notice a person is willing to be vulnerable with you, a lot of time that lets you know that it's okay to be vulnerable with them.
You know what? I'm learning some stuff tonight. Go on, girls. If you know they can be vulnerable, they let you, and that is true. Because how am I going to share with you? How am I going to connect with you when you're not trying to connect with me? I need to know. That's not saying I need to know everything about you, but I need to know. I need to know that you get me. You know what I mean? So, okay, go ahead, Dawn.
Well, too, so I'm really big on Titus too.
Mm,
I'm really big on the older women doing our job according to scripture. And I think in order for us to do that and do it effectively, you have to be vulnerable because, uh, if you really want to help somebody, then there's a part of you, even through the fear, because there's just one line in my entire story in the book that shook me. And I wrote Kim, I texted her and I was like, hey, I'm nervous about what people are going to say. I'm scared. In fact, I put that in our text group. I'm scared what people are going to think and how they will judge me based on just this one little line. And but if we want to be who God has called us to be according to Titus 2, then we have to open our mouths. We have to be transparent. We have to be vulnerable. And you just have to know that not everyone is going to receive your story or your help. Um, you still have a duty to do what the scriptures tell us to do in teaching the younger women. And I just really feel like if the older women of yesterday or yesteryears would have opened their mouths sooner, we would, the church or just women in general, would be in such a much better place. Marriages could have been saved. Single women in or single people, period, in the church or anywhere in the world could learn to heal and learn to go get the help that they need, whether that's the older ladies in the church, if it's counseling to some degree, whatever it is, that we just have to open our mouths and say something.
Love it. I love it. And I agree. I think it's getting better. You know why I think it's getting better? Because we're saying something about it. I agree, because I'm from a generation, we didn't talk, period. You didn't talk about nothing. It happened, move on. We had that conversation. Then you have adult children. But it is getting better because people are becoming more vocal. And the thing is to remember, even if you don't tell someone everything I say again, tell them enough, because I don't care how small or big it is. Anything can help somebody. And you'd be surprised because we have people at different levels of hurt. What my journey is may be nothing to you. What your journey is, I may say, like, oh, I may not understand it, but it's your journey. You all are doing it, rocking it. Anybody else want to comment there?
And I just want to add to that piece. Um, even with even with the book Joyfully Courageous, we all went there when it when it was to the point of being vulnerable. We all went there, and I can't even count on my hands how many times someone who had purchased the book approached me to say, I can relate to this story, or I can relate to that story. And I thank you all so much for being open, to even share this. So we all went there when it came down to being vulnerable. I know we thought a little bit about it, but at the same time, and I want to say, like Kendra mentioned, that freedom, like we are all free from what kept us captive within that moment, and just making that decision to say, okay, I'm going to put this out there, and we blessing a lot of people, even older sisters. They come to you and they tell you, this book is a blessing. So it's awesome.
You'd be surprised at how many older ladies may not say it, but just what you just said, but they're listening. But we have to understand their time as well. They weren't built like that. They didn't know. So to have some patience, I guess that's the word, because they're coming. They're coming. Okay, because that wasn't a norm. Did you all have to go through some emotional levels? I'm thinking I'm hearing that's what you're saying too, Kim. Some emotional levels. What I mean by that, because sometimes you push stuff back. Once when I write, sometimes I am in awe because the words that come out it has nothing to do with me. Don laughing at me. It has not. I use awe a lot, y'all. Okay, when I'm in, it has nothing to do with me, and I'm talking sometimes in tears because the healing that is starting or happening when I'm writing. Did you all go through that? Some stages like of healing? Okay, Dawn, you want to go ahead and say something?
I went through a part of like the mirror had been turned around on me, and I had to now look in this mirror and tell the truth.
Mm.
So I had written the book, and I didn't necessarily come out and tell everyone how much my ex cheated on me, but I hinted at it. But then in Joyfully Courageous, then I had to tell the truth to the rest of the story. And that was emotional for me, just to yeah, because I had to have a conversation with my boys, like, hey, this book is coming out, and guess what? I know we've never talked about it, but I cheated too, you know, and it just made me, it's a scary place to be in. When, like, for me, I had been protecting me, I had been protecting what people thought about me and what they saw of me. And so now then, in Joyfully Courageous, I have to say, guess what? I wasn't perfect either. I sinned too. Um, and that's a very emotional place to be, to have to tell the truth.
Love it. Arvelia?
Yes, and I agree. For me, I had to take my mask off. One of my favorite poems is by Paul Dunbar, and it's titled "We Were the Mask." I had perfected, and I do mean perfected, wearing my mask. Everything on the outside looks perfect. Nothing's wrong. Everything on the inside just in shambles, just raggedy. And in this book, it felt so good to release that story. It was like a weight just lifted. And because I told it in my own words, I didn't care what other people thought, because I knew that I had went to a place of authenticity and vulnerability that I normally do not do. And it's either you accept it or you don't. But you have to be okay with those that don't accept it and move through those emotions.
Love it. Now, Michelle, I see your name, but Kim, you had your name up hand up first. Do you want to say something?
I was just about to add in when you asked about the healing process. I don't think I would have been able to even be a part of it if I had not gone through the healing process.
Mm.
So it was almost like I had to go through that process to even be to the point where I could be open and be so vulnerable to even go there. So the healing process is what really put the fire behind me to be able to even share.
I love it. Go ahead, Michelle.
I just wanted to encourage Don, and we've talked before, but just as somebody who had to find out from somebody else what the parent had done, and they wouldn't own up to it. And then after I was an adult, I had to actually say something to them. You don't know how you're blessing your kids. You know, I told you this before. You blessed your kids, you blessed your relationship, you blessed yourself, because you're not sitting there wondering if they ever gonna find out, or somebody else tell them, their dad tell them, and it's like, oh, we didn't know, like you told them. And I just thank you, because I'm just telling you, it's not a good feeling when the parent holds the stuff back and you have to find out some other kind of way. So, kudos to you for doing that. You just really blessed your family.
That's to continue in that trust, right? Go ahead, Adney.
Um, for me, I was already on the healing journey because, you and I, we've had the conversation about my personal book that's coming out. So that's technically just like an excerpt from what I'm already writing. But I think the biggest thing for me was to have the conversation with my kids and let them know, hey, y'all are supposed to have some other siblings, and them being okay with other people reading their mom's chapter and knowing that people are going to judge me, and I've gotten to a place where I don't care if you judge me, if you take my story and you share it with other people. Thank you for spreading the word, because Butterfly Kisses is coming, and I have people that I'm going to help on this journey as well. So I'm just proud of all the women who were able to share their story, because there's one thing I've learned from my spiritual mother, Aretha. She always says, when you share your story and people talk about you, tell them thank you, because what they're doing is marketing for you. And that's one of the things that I had to learn. When people talk about you and you are so vulnerable with them and they share your story, they're marketing for you. When you get that call from a sister that say, hey, I want you to come on my call, guess what? It's because somebody was talking about you. That's money you didn't have to pay. That was free marketing. So take it. So that's one of the things that I just want everybody to understand. Be grateful and thankful that people are sharing your story for you,
I
because you're
love it.
going to get on platforms that, sorry, I don't know what's going on.
Oh. Go ahead, Denise.
So many things to say. I kind of want to piggyback off of Dawn when we were, she was talking about the older women teaching the younger women, and you know how we're supposed to be examples as Christians. I think sometimes we take it out of context on what an example looks like. We think that that means they have to see the perfect us, never make a mistake. So then we live like a fake, a facade. And so they don't know how to deal with life because we haven't showed it, you know, we haven't shown them life. So I think when I'm thinking in the Bible and it's talking about being an example, is also people having to see us fall and then God, you know, bring us up. So, you know, we rise. You think about the stories when you look at like Olympians and things like that. The ones that we get the most excited about are the ones that something happened to them. They fail, you know, might not have made it, you know, or something like that. And then they do. We're shooting for the underdog. And so I think it's very important for us to share the, you know, our struggles, our downfalls, whatever that is. In terms of my story, I struggle with my story because I didn't feel like it was as deep as the rest of the other ladies. But it was one of the very painful times in my life. I did cry. I felt I had healed from it, but just writing it, and I'm like you, I cry a lot. You come in my room, my diary has tear stains on it. But writing about it again and just sharing that, because somebody has been, even if it's not with a job, you've been through a process in your life where you're wondering, like, why do I keep hitting a brick wall? Why am I going through this crooked, you know, path? And then when you get to the end of that path until the next adventure begins, you realize that was God all along. You know, He carried me. He had a purpose in that. You know, He helped me to learn some things about myself, you know, and others. And so everybody's story is important. But yes, it does cause, you know, you wonder if people are going to say, oh, this wasn't anything, you know, what, you know, or you wonder if people will say, well, must have been a horrible employee, you know, or she just needs to, you know, woman up and, you know, get with it with the job. So yeah, so that's that vulnerability piece for me, but also just vulnerability, I believe, helps us all to strengthen each other rather than weaken.
Awesome. All right, Miss Denise. You,
I think Denise was just talking. Do you mean me, Renee?
we can hear you.
Okay. I was just going to say, when I was telling my story, the thing that was hard for me is that my chapter was about a moment between me and God, right? And it was God encouraging me in a way that I couldn't ignore, that He was encouraging and directly talking to me. So it was hard for me to decide to share that moment with others and see how maybe it encouraged others because I've held it so close. And I'd also say that, you know, a lot of the stuff that I post and tell people is like the highlight reel of what happens in my life. And there's a huge struggle that happens. There are a lot of down parts to the life as much as there are successes to the life. And so I think sharing this side of myself that's not so much the highlight reel was a different space for me.
Love it. Love that. All right. I love the conversation, ladies. I love what you all are saying because that goes back again how you all had to jail. Even though you all had different stories, it had to jail together and it came out exactly how it was supposed to. Go ahead, Dawn.
That's what I was about to say. Thank God for Dr. Kim Hardy. When she put it out there to us, the invitation to participate, she didn't tell us what we had to write. She just said, choose a time. And then we, had to look within ourselves to decide. I'm always saying, which testimony do you want me to give? Depending on what your overarching theme is. I got something for everything. But she just let God lead her, and then she shared it with us. And I love how it all came together. Like, I believe we have a bond. I've not met. I don't know that. Well, I saw Adney speak one time here in Barack, but I don't think I've met any of the other sisters other than yourself, Roz, before. But I believe that there's a bond that was developed because of Joyfully Courageous, one that will never, for me anyway, they can't get rid of me now if they wanted to. But uh, you know, every story, every story is on point. I don't know how anyone who supports this work can't be lifted up in some way from at least one story of the 17. Surely there's one in here that knocks on your door, you know. Yeah, it's just
Yeah.
a blessing. It's just a blessing.
Now I'm gonna be honest with y'all. Okay. Don't tell nobody I'm saying this though. Okay. All right. No, okay. Like we not recording, right? I know a few of you all personally. Okay. So of course I went to my babies first, to read. But I was so pulled in from Kendra, Don. Okay, if I name them names, y'all don't take it personal. I just know a few people: Kendra, Don, Kimmy, Adney. So I know. So of course I went there first, and Kim Kelly. Kim. Sorry, Kim too. So I met y'all. So I went there first, and I was like, "Ain't no way! I couldn't even put the book down. I had to go see the other ones. I was like, because it was just gelling that well. It's great work. That's all I can say. It's great work. Okay. All right. Now, community. Now we talked about that vulnerability. Let's go to the community because that has something to do with the vulnerability as well. Okay. I say that because a tribe is of utmost importance to help hold us down and lift us up on this journey. Okay. Now, Adney, Denise, Michelle, start that off for me. No
Um,
particular order.
with the community piece, I don't do women. I'm gonna be honest. Like, I don't even know why God chose me to be a part of this community. I'm sorry. Like, women are catty, troublemakers, gossipy, and God said, "Well, that's the community I want you to work with." And I had to learn a lesson. I'm a woman too. I grew up, around a lot of guys, so I had this, way about me. But this community has been a blessing for me. It's helped me to tap into my femininity. It's helped me to look at myself and say, Adney, you're one of them. Excuse my language, you have a vagina too. So you don't get to say you're not going to be a part of this. When Kimberly Hardy invited me to Jesus Sprinkle to speak, I'm like, Lord, who in the world is this person and why is she asking me to come? And let me tell you, since 2020, I've been writing with her. God was like, you're going to be her right hand. And it's been a blessing for me. Writing the book with her when she called me, because I gave her this little story. She said, no, that's not what you're going to write about. I said, Kimberly Hardy, I ain't going to tell my business like that. I already have to put another book. I already have a book that God is working on me to put out there. You want me to do what now? She said, I want you to write about this particular thing. And if anybody knows, I only got 2 pages in the book. And I was like, okay, this girl made me write this thing. But all these sisters, all these women I'm looking at, but like, you don't understand how powerful that story was. They've encouraged me. That's what community is about. We are each other's Aaron and her. Like, if one is going through something on that chat, we're encouraging one another. We're lifting each other up. We're supporting each other the best way that we know how. And that's the beauty of being women. Like, society would tell us that, we're not supposed to, but God said, I created y'all to have community. I'm grateful and thankful. They're not just like women I wrote a book with. I'm getting to know them to the point where I could say, like Kimberly Hardy, they're my sisters. So that's the blessing for me.
Michelle, you put something in the chat, and I want you to elaborate on this because, ooh, there's some real stuff right there. Okay, you said sometimes when we have had bad experiences with girls or women, we distrust automatically. That's just real right there. I'm sorry. Sometimes we cause some issues. You know what I mean? Go ahead.
Um, I just put that in there because I know I've heard, I know women that that's the case, even though I was made fun of and things like that when I was in junior high and stuff by other girls. I never, took that, attitude or whatever, even though a lot of times I was friends with guys and stuff growing up. But I've just heard that so much, like, oh, girls are messy or whatever, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, I had a couple of good girlfriends in high school. I hadn't had any problems with them, but okay. So I can't really speak on that type of hurt. I just know I've heard it, and I've seen people that have experienced that.
Okay. Now, Michelle, Denise, I'm going to get you, and then Kim, you can speak after Denise says what she has to say.
Well, yeah, I mean, I've kind of experienced that. So when Adney said she's not really a girl or woman, a person that hangs around a lot of girls, I keep my close friends tight and few. But this definitely, God keeps putting me in situations where it has to broaden me, and I'm thankful to God for that. But vulnerability brings about community. I think that if we had not shared these stories that were so personal and so deep, I don't think that our community would even be as tight as it is. But everything starts with a leader, right? So it starts with Kim Hardy. We just keep saying her name, but it's true. The first time I met her, I've only met her via Zoom. But the first time I met her was earlier on in the pandemic in another book discussion. And I read her book, the God's Baby Girl book. And I'm like, somebody that would share all of this is a trustworthy person, And so I think that she set that tone for us, and it helped us to just open up. And then, we're all in this together, whether we want to be or not. It's just kind of like we are now. And I think when you're vulnerable, that it helps community, and community is important because then you have that support system. You realize that you're not alone. Yesterday, I taught a ladies class, and a lot of the women are older than me, I should say. And I like to start off with kind of a story about myself. And I started talking about how I'm not patient. And people don't, no, that's what you're supposed to be as a Christian. I know, some areas I'm patient in, but some areas I'm not. And so after we got done there, the women were like, it was just so good to hear that I'm not the only one going through this. It's so important, especially with women, to know that we're not the only ones. And so when we're thinking that we're going through something, we kind of go into a silo. We go to ourselves, and I'm not good enough. I'm not perfect. How is she living like that? So then we don't even connect with other people because we're not being real with other people. We can't build community when we're siloed off and when we're silent. So that's what I'm thankful for about community. And I'm thankful for Kim being that brave soul that just spearheaded this.
Okay, I'm about to show my age. Kim is the bomb diggity. Okay, that's all I got to say. Kim is the stuff. Okay. But one thing, even Even though women may not always gel together, sometimes, yeah, we bump heads. But you know what? We can still always make it work. Even though we may be fighting in the process, the end result is usually a good thing. I don't want it to be chaos, but I try to focus on that end result too. I grew up with a bunch of brothers. I grew up with six brothers, so I didn't do women things. Just saying. You probably can tell that probably the way I act. you know. Miss Michelle, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, she said, vulnerability leads to community. But community is so important. I noticed that with both of my parents, they didn't really have community around them, and I'm just thankful that I learned to do that in my life because, as I say, it helps you to smooth out the rough edges because um, we all have our strength, we all have our weaknesses, we have our tendencies and our preconceptions and stuff like that. And when you're around other people and you see how they handle things or they, put input into things that you're doing, it's like it makes you rethink things sometimes. And you're like, oh, okay, I can handle this a different way. Or maybe I am, fussing at my kids too much or whatever, whatever. Or maybe I'm being too hard on myself because this person is going through this too. So I thought it was just me because I'm the only one in my family that's like this, but there are other people that's like this. So community is like it's so important to surround yourself with people that are also trying to live for God, of all ages. Same age as you, younger than you,
Yeah,
older than you. You need the sisters, the brothers, the cousins, the mamas, the aunties, the daddies. You need all of it.
yeah, I agree. You all have a comment on Facebook. They're saying that they're very proud of you all for telling your testimony and overcoming, encouraging other women to tell their secrets because secrets will kill you. She said, and that she hope we as African American Black women will have our waiting to exhale. I love that. Love it. All right, Miss Alicia.
Okay. No, I just wanted to say, being the only child, I've always had to create community for myself. I've always been reaching out to other people, whether they don't realize they're helping me, but then I end up helping them as well. So my thing was more so acknowledging how I got out of the church for a period of time and how I know during the pandemic we lost a lot of members based off of different things. So I didn't know if maybe some of the reason why we lost those members were based off of things that similar to what I've been through, and realizing that there's a lot of people that have had church hurt, and those little, to other people they think it's little, but just knowing that, we have to be mindful how our actions, our inactions truly affect people and run them away from the church. So in my mind, I had to say something. I'm so glad that Kim did ask me to be part of this because I was very scared. I'm very shy. I'm freaking out just talking right now. But I'm so glad that she put me out of my comfort zone, took me out of that, so then I could get my story out there and praying that it helps somebody.
All right, y'all, come on. Come on. There you go. What is that? Jazz hands, Kendra? Okay, I do the dress. Okay, there we go.
I call it the
Wow,
boom hand.
you're doing it. You're doing it, honey. Okay, so shyness is gone. Okay, we're doing this. All right. So I wouldn't have known that if you wouldn't have said that. That's a good thing. So you're coming out of that. I get it. Go ahead, Kim.
I just want to speak on the community piece. I facilitate the Kingdom Singles Life Study Group, and we studied the book Tony Evans. And in the book, there's a chapter about community, like the importance of being a part of a community as a single person. And it was so powerful because sometimes, like Adnan said, you do have women who, they have that mindset where I can't trust other women, or I don't feel like I could be vulnerable with other women for whatever reason. And I always tell when I do hear that, I always encourage them like to chase the why. Chase the why behind why you feel the way that you feel. Because once you chase the why, then you'll be more aware of why you feel that way, and then start taking steps to come up out of that stronghold of feeling like I can't be surrounded or I can't be in the present or in the community with other women. Um, so we were talking about, we had that discussion on community and how it is important to be connected, to like-minded individuals, to be connected with other women that are on the same journey that you're on, so you can have that support system, so they can encourage you, whether you in the body or outside of the body. It always good to have that community where you can build like a stronger connection with a group of women that they have my back. Like even with Jesus Sprinkle, when I was introduced to it, and we had moments where we were able to be open and transparent within this community, because we was at the point where we were building this community because I needed you all, and I don't know if y'all needed me, but I needed you all at the time. We were going through COVID. So, and I don't know if Kim and Adney remember, like there were times I was on the call, but I would just be on the call, like just be on the call. I would never share. I would not allow myself to be vulnerable or open. But even going through that process, and they don't know, I had to pray about it. I was like, okay, Kim, you have things that you can add, like you have assets that you can add to this group. Like there's someone on here that you can help or you can encourage. So that sense of community was so powerful, and it was much needed. And I thank Kimberly. I was introduced to the group by Andrea Moore, but I also thank Kimberly for even coming up with the vision to bring single women together in the body of Christ. Because many times we are the ones that are kind of, I ain't gonna say the ones, but we are, kind of forgotten about. It sometimes it's all about building like stronger marriages and stronger families, and then, but at the same time, before you even get to that stage, you have to build stronger men and stronger women, in that single phase in your life, in order to be able to have stronger marriages and stronger families.
Love
So
it.
so being able to be connected to that community, it is so powerful. So that was my little piece on community.
I love it. All right, go ahead, Renee.
I was just going to share about my thoughts about community, in particular the Jesus Sprinkle, because I was raised in the church, but when I went to college and I started living with people who were not members of the church, I began to see like, dang, the world is toxic, And I remember how powerful it was to go to Wednesday service. It felt like oxygen to me, to take it in, to then go back out in the world and do things. And I would say during the pandemic, I love what I do in general in life, but there's a lot that I take on. And so at the end of the day, being on the computer all the time, I'm like, I need something else because I feel the toxins, And then I got introduced to the Jesus Sprinkle, and Kimberly and Andrea Moore, they were doing a Bible study where we were doing 31 prayers for our future husbands. And it was at that moment again, I felt like the oxygen mask coming back on. There's this Christian group of women who are like-minded to me, and we're thinking clearly about, let's set a vision for ourselves and a path for ourselves. So I think that this community of the Jesus Sprinkle has and was that oxygen mask that I needed in the time of the pandemic.
Love it. Love it. Go ahead, Kendra.
Yes, I think that community always gives you a solution to a problem, whether it is a subset of the body that is for singlehood, or a subset for this, or whatever it is. It's always a solution to the problem, and the solution is to come together. I mean, God Himself is three in one. So there's functions for all of it. And there's even functions for all of us. I mean, one of us is an editor. One of us, although we're talking about our coming together with our stories, but one is an editor, one is a publisher, one is a life coach, one writes books, one does, so now you not only have a community of people that you walk with each other based off of your religious beliefs, but you also have a community of people who You can. We always talk about the black dollar being the black dollar and staying in the community. Here you go. You got it right here. So we have the resource. Yes, we have the resources here. So then it brings another solution to another problem that we may have had, and it's right here. And then another solution to another problem. Okay, Renee's got it. Oh, okay, Alicia has it. So not only does it help us with our spiritual needs, but it just keeps going and keeps giving as we continue to stay together.
Love it. Now, Dawn kind of hit on this, but we're still going to go back to this question. Okay? And that's the accountability in singleness. That goes back to we sometimes fail to look at things we need to improve in order to recognize again the Mr. that God has for us. What does it look like? And I say that too. Had we in the past, because I know I had, and if anyone has ever seen my husband, you look at us and say, like, they don't look like they supposed to be together. Look, okay, I'm gonna go on and tell y'all. I'm almost 6 feet tall. You may can't tell it. I'm pretty tall. Dawn laughed because she seen my hubby. Don't be doing that, girl. I love that man. But my husband like 5'8.5", maybe 5'9". We okay if I ain't got shoes, y'all. Okay. But y'all get the point I'm making. I had to stop when I prayed for my mister. I stopped putting all that extra stuff there, and I prayed for that guy that I prayed for, that God was going to send me, and not look with this so much, but look here. When I started doing that and basically stopped looking, he came to me. You know what I'm saying? So that's why one said, do we sometimes talk ourselves out of not just that, but things in life too, for us to be elevated as well? Do we sometimes talk ourselves out of it? Okay. Now I want to get Amber, Kendra, Arvelia, and Tanya to say that don't shoot me. Don't shoot me. I'm so bad. I'm bad with names, y'all. I'm trying. I love all of y'all though, okay? Y'all answer those questions for me. Okay. I see y'all answer those questions for me. Okay, somebody just go ahead. Start.
I'll try to go first.
Okay.
Accountability in this singleness of mine. I think the first person that ever held me accountable for possibly why I'm single was Sister Bradley. Her husband facilitates a Thursday call for singles. And one day she and I were talking, and she was just like, well, do you think, I ain't gonna tell y'all what she said. Do you think XYZ? I know we on real talk, but that was my safe haven. I'm not ready to divulge that information yet.
That's fine.
That's all right. She was just like, XYZ could be the reason. And in that moment, that's when I started doing the work in the inside.
Light bulb.
Correct. Because then I realized, well, and this is where me and Annie kind of go back and forth in a positive way. As far as your energy, you receive exactly what you give out. If your light is dimming, you're gonna get those dim people. You get what you give out. So if you want something different, you have to do something different. So it was a lot of stuff in the inside that I needed to fix. So even before that chapter was written, because of that conversation, I had already began the healing that led to me writing that. So her holding me accountable for the flaws that I have and had that were keeping me from shining the way that God created me to shine. That's where I had to do the work.
Love it. I want to put a question on your mind just to ponder. I got you next, Adney and Alicia. Let me put this question I want y'all to think about. Do you think it's easier or less challenging for a single woman to tell her truth or story than an older married woman? Don't answer yet. This is a question that I had to get y'all to think about that one. Go ahead, baby. You go ahead,
I'm
Alicia.
sorry if I.
Me or
Okay. Okay.
Who?
Oh,
Who?
I saw some hands. What the hell? Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so I'm sorry I'm off camera for my thing keeps going out and it's bothering me. Um, the lesson I had to learn after writing this book, sitting with my spiritual father, and he said to me, Adney, you're more flesh than spirit. That hurt me. Because I thought me and Jesus was good. And when I started doing the work, God led me to Deuteronomy 6:9. And I'm like, why in the world would God lead me there? It was early one morning getting ready for work. And I read it. And it says, love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind. And I said, oh my gosh, I don't love you enough. And that's one of the things that I think a lot of us as single women, single men have to understand. God does not want us to have idols on our hearts. And Annie loves her some men. And men, they're my weakness. And I had to realize men were my idol. Like, and I had to say, okay, I need to take these men off of my heart. I had to figure out why. What was the common denominator of me loving this thing more than I love my Heavenly Father? And as I'm working through it, like I have a sister call me yesterday and said, don't take yourself out of, I have to, because if I'm going to be his, I need to be my father's first. If I'm going to be my husband, my future husband's, I have to be God's first. There are assignments that he's given me. And all of this stuff has really been causing me to put it on a back burner because I'm focusing on pleasing that person and not pleasing my father. And those are the things that are coming out. And I think if all of us really sit down and look at the childhood traumas that we've gone through, and mines are many, and not allowing them to hold me bound and really escaping all of that stuff and allowing God to do the work, to take a picture and a person looks at your picture and say, wow, I see someone different. I don't see what I was looking at before. And that was one of the things that I had to come to the realization of as a single woman is I thought I was serving God, but in actual reality, I was serving my flesh. I was serving me.
Wow. Alicia, go ahead, baby.
Okay, I was just gonna say, as far as accountability and singleness, I have been going to all these different singles events, retreats, all these different things, and then something I forgot, Safe Conversations, which basically has you analyze yourself, how to have a safe conversation with somebody. And at that moment, even though I had been to counseling before, at that moment, breaking down all that stuff from my childhood trauma and all that, I was like, I am dating my father, the unresolved issues of my father. And at that moment, I realized that I got to heal from all of that stuff. Which I was able to finally have that conversation with my father after I, worked on some things, other things within myself. But then I said, once I get that out the way, then I could date. So I took myself off the market because I knew if I got into anything, I would damage it. And I thank God for revealing that to me because I was like, I'm going to damage the man that he has for me. So that's why he has not sent him to me yet. So just making sure to put that counseling is okay for those that don't, please seek it if you're struggling with some different things and you don't have a community that you feel safe with. Seek that because that counseling that's for you and no one else.
Amen to that. Go ahead, Kendra.
yes. Excuse me. Yes, to me, accountability and singleness.
Wait a minute,
is
Kendra,
more
speak
of-
up just a little. You're a little low, just a little bit.
Can you hear me now?
Mm-hmm.
Is that better?
Uh-huh.
To me, accountability and singleness has more to do with you holding me accountable to where God is leading me. Because you can only have so many Bible studies as to how to be a wife. It's called actually just being humble before the Lord. Like if you're being sanctified by the Lord, then I don't need to be in 5,000 different Bible studies about like, okay, I need to do this, I need to do that. It comes because you're in submission to the Lord. And so to me, that accountability really comes in. Okay, since you're single, what has God called you to do in this season? And let me help you be accountable to whatever that is. Because if you're actually doing what you should in that season, then when the man comes, it already ties into each other. So to me, that's of high importance in your singlehood is actually knowing where God is leading you and actually doing what He's called you to do, whether it is healing, whether it is like actually starting the ministry, whatever it might be, to actually do that and not be so heavy on how to be a wife, but how do I be a follower of Christ?
Awesome. All right, Kim K.
So just to add on, and I recall having a conversation with Adney a couple of weeks ago, and I shared with her. I said, could it be that um, we desire marriage more than we desire God, and that's the reason why. It's a waiting period because He's trying to get us to see, don't desire the marriage more than you desire me. And I had to learn that going through my process. And when it comes to the accountability piece, I had to face myself in the mirror. I desired that more than I desired Him, and He showed me that. And I even mentioned in the book, like when I had to face myself and to take ownership and be accountable of the choices that I made, that's when He was able to reveal to me that, Kim, you first have to learn and know how to love me. Once you know how to learn, once you learn how to love me, it'll be no problem for you to know how to love that man. Once you
Amen.
learn how to be faithful to me, there'll be no problem once you learn how to be faithful to that man. So God showed me a lot in the midst of it all. So it's very important. First, we got to learn how to be accountable to ourselves. It's always good to have accountability partner, but when you have to face yourself in the mirror to take ownership of the choices that we make, that's why I would tell anybody, when it don't desire something more than you desire Him, and that could be the reason why many of us are still in our waiting period, because we, even though we're not intentionally trying to idolize certain things in our lives, but sometimes it can ease in there, and sometimes God had to show us like, I need your mind to be on me, and don't think so much of the status of being single, but live this season that you're in with freedom and doing what I need for you to do at the time. And eventually, when the time is right, He's going to come. So that's what I would encourage anyone: desire Him more than anything.
Love it. Love it. Kim H.
Wow. Okay. So it's been said. But I just have to say it again. God is, because we are His daughters, He has us all on a different journey. And there's a piece that's missing for all of us, in terms of anyone on any journey. Married women that I've met who have told me, I don't know why God blessed me with a husband and children. What I do know is that because I have them, I have to slow down. And God uses them to make me slow down and focus on Him, right? And so when I think about this singleness journey, I think about it as a gift that God gave me because of what I prayed for. So when I think about why do I have the weight? Because of what I prayed for, right? And in that, God holds us accountable sometimes for what we prayed for, right? And so sometimes when we get in that comparison game and I'm like, but she has, God says, okay, baby girl, but what did you pray for? Because they didn't pray what you prayed for. And so for me, my singleness, my extended singleness is a gift because I've asked God for, God, I want a healthy marriage. I don't
Oh,
just want a
that's right.
marriage, I want a healthy marriage. So that takes some detoxing from some things that I've seen, some things that I've believed, some things that I even hoped for that were not God's best, right? So rather than Him rushing me to a marriage, because I have a sister that was married at 21, 22, I would not trade
these years, for her years, for anything. No, 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 no. And so when I think about accountability too, when God's Holy Spirit speaks to us and says, baby girl, I've given you this time. What the heck are you doing with it? He probably doesn't say heck. Yes, he does. Sometimes he does. He speaks strong sometimes. He says, what are you doing with it? I think the other thing about God's accountability to us is sometimes he asks us, so that thing validates you more than I validate you. That job, Jesus sprinkle validates you now and I don't validate you. Oh, the book Joyfully Courageous validates you and I don't validate you. And these are things, and the reason why I say this is because everything, anything, including ministry, including our gifts, anything that we would raise above God, he says no, no. You know, prayer. If we think that our praying is more important than God himself, we are wrong. If we think that our church and our minister and our ministry and our work that we do in the church is more important than him, we are wrong. And sometimes that accountability that he gives us is like, nope, and he can give it to us in different ways. He tugs our chain in different ways. For me, having a mental health diagnosis, the Lord reminds me at different times, like, did you forget that I gave you something that would make you turn back to me? So let me just remind you, turn back to me, all of these things. And so when I think of accountability and singleness, I think about that opportunity to go into deep communion with God and God saying, okay, come on back. Where'd you go? At different times. And I'm thankful for that. I am thankful for that. I know that the word says that marriage is honorable and the bed is undefiled. So I honor marriage because God honors marriage. But at the same time, I'm thinking one little old husband in a lifetime, like maybe say I have 110 years, one little old husband in a lifetime, that's 110 years compared to an impact that I could make for eternity. Oh, okay. Yeah, that's okay. You can keep him. I'm kidding. I want to be married. But if the Lord says, let me keep your little Ken doll and let me do something with you that I'm trying to do for eternity, I'm like, okay, I'm with it. But sometimes our hearts ache, and God has to hold us and say, no, it's okay for your heart to ache. You can cry because you don't have this thing, because I'm your father and I hold you even then. So I just had to share that. God holding us accountable in singleness.
Love it. All right, Michelle.
Well, shoot, I don't even want to say nothing now after all that. Um, um, I just want to encourage, all you sisters that are single, that, never been married and waiting and all of that. God bless you to you do that because, my husband and I were together for 7 years. We've been separated in separate states for 14 years. When you're insecure, when you're in a rush, when you're not listening to God and you just rush into something that you think, like, say you so worried about being married, so we're like getting a man, all this stuff like this, it's not worth it. It's not worth it. So obey God, honor God, be patient so that he can give you what it is that he wants, to give you. And speaking of which, I didn't know what the title of this show was going to be. So when I was sending the stuff to my friends and family, and it was like, "What are you doing while you waiting for your mate?" I said, "I'm gonna tell them, y'all. I'm gonna tell them I'm separated, okay? So they don't think I'm out here trying to put myself on the market." But I don't want nobody. I don't want nobody to think I'm doing nothing shady. So we gonna see what the Lord do with that situation. But seriously though, just stay encouraged because it's better for you to be single and following God than to be in something where you're having, stress and all of these different things because you were not doing what God wanted you to do, and then having to have Him try to work that mess out for you.
That's one thing I often say too. You can either have the guy of your dreams or the guy of your prayers. Make a choice. Because a lot of times that guy of your dreams Y'all know dreams can be happy, dreams can be scary, dreams can be nightmares, all that. But that God of your prayers that God asks you for, even though you're gonna have bumps, because marriage is one of the hardest things you can do in life. Yes, I'm not gonna say it's not. It's not always a cakewalk. But when you two are in accord in prayer, you can get through a lot of stuff, even if that means you got to go in your room and he got to go in his. Have your space, and then come back together. How about that? All right, go ahead, Kim.
No, when you just said that, that made me think about. I remember our minister. He taught about the permitted seed versus the promised seed, and when he and when he taught on it, when I say it pierced me so hard to the point where, oh, I was pierced a lot. But it pierced me so hard because I had to realize that, dog, Kim, you got the permitted seed, not the promised seed. So and that it was an eye opener because sometimes God would allow us, to have what we want and not what we need. Like he would permit us to have what we want. And then once we get it, then we have to learn that lesson next time. Next time you'll wait on me, next time you will consult in me. Next time you will wait for this promised seed versus taking this little permitted seed here. So when you when you mentioned that, that would make me think about the permitted seed versus the promised seed. And like I told him, I want a second chance, and I want the promised seed. I don't want the permitted seed.
Committed versus
No,
the
permitted. Like I permit you.
permit.
Yeah.
Permitted versus the promises.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. I love that. Oh wow. Okay. Go ahead, Miss Atney. And then we're gonna answer. Then I want y'all to be ready to answer that question that I asked. Okay.
Okay, so go ahead and repeat the question. I'll just answer it right now while I'm unmuted.
Okay. Where you at?
I'm on. It's just like my camera keeps fluttering. So.
Oh, okay. No, that's fine. Go ahead. Okay.
Go ahead and ask that question, Mama.
What? Oh, you didn't hear it. Okay, so you're making me work again. Okay, hold on. And I'm gonna go ahead and say my Mama K said this. Okay.
Okay.
Do you think it's easier or less challenging for a single woman to tell her truth or story than an older married woman? And I'm going to also put older women with that too, period.
Okay, so it all depends on the vulnerability and confidence an older woman has. I'm going to start off with that. Why? Because us younger women, we bold. Like we're very courageous, not because of the book or whatever. I remember the first time I was invited to speak on a call and I did not know what topic, but the Lord said, this is what you're going to talk about. And I just opened my mouth. And when I opened my mouth, I was like, oh, okay, I'm a little speaker. Okay, Jesus, let's do this thing. Right. And my mother in the spirit, she said, Adney, you've done something that most people would not have done. You shared a part of you that most people wouldn't do. Why is that? That saying that says what happens in this house stays in this house, it's ingrained in a lot of older women. And because they haven't divorced themselves from that ideology and mindset, it's killing them, right? They're dying slowly because they don't want to release what happens in this house stays in this house. Whereas we younger women, if that man is going upside my head, girl, I need some help. This man is beating me up. I need somebody to help me. We don't mind sharing that. If we don't share it, it's because we too have bought into the lie of what happens in this house stays in this house. My daughter tells me all the time, Mom, you need to shut up. Stop telling people your business. And I had to tell her, if I don't share my story, how will somebody else heal? The purpose of our testimonies is to help others. They're not for us. Your testimony is not for you. God did not allow you to make it through a journey in life for you to just keep it. It is for other people. And once we as Christians understand that, the pews will be filled because women will see, men will hear that, oh my goodness, these Christians, they ain't perfect. They got issues just like I have issues. And if older women would understand that, they would open their mouths. I had one sister one time tell me, "Oh, don't you think that dress is too tight?" And I had to tell her, "Don't you think you should take me to the store to buy me some new clothes? Don't look at what I'm wearing, because I'm almost certain you're just jealous because I'm nice and shapely." And she never spoke to me again. I don't mind that. The reason you had that outcome is because once upon a time you were able to wear the dress that I wore. And because you can't wear it now, you have a problem with me wearing it versus sitting me down and having a conversation with me. Okay, I'm off my soapbox.
Okay, now y'all keep it moving. Go ahead, Alicia.
Please make way. Please make way for the ambulance. I don't know what the body count is on that.
What's this on there? Go ahead, Alicia.
No, I was gonna say I get it both ways as
Oh,
far
okay.
as
Hold on.
okay.
Y'all done opened up something with Alicia. Did y'all see that? Y'all love it?
No.
Talk, girl. I love it. I love it. Go ahead.
I think it depends from what I've seen, what I've witnessed as far as married women in the church. If it's a collective, I feel as though the married woman is heard more than the single woman. If it is in a private setting, I think that the single woman has more of a voice in that sense. But if leadership, for whatever reason, it seems like the church caters to married folks than it does single folks, from my experience. So I just think that it depends on what the situation is. I know I reached out to a married woman about a situation, and I think I caught her completely off guard by the question that I asked. I still don't have an answer, but I just but I think the Lord gave me what I needed in that situation. But I don't think that some of the things that a single and younger women have dealt with, that some of the older people are prepared for some of our different things that we've been through. So we do need these forums and these communities to be able to talk about these things, because like we're finding out, more of us have been through some of the same things, but we would have never known that had we not had these conversations.
Yeah. I'm almost 60, okay? I am just getting to that point. The last maybe 5 years, maybe give or take a little bit. I'm just getting there. Because again, of the generation I grew up in. You didn't do this. But I'm learning a lot too from the millennials and up. Okay? I mean, I'm not trying to disprove the younger ones. I'm just saying that's the generation that I'm hearing more from right now. But we're learning, and I just say just continue to keep talking, because we're listening. Okay, go ahead, Dawn.
I couldn't wait till you got
Ooh. She scared me.
I couldn't wait. So at first, I was very set on it's easier for the older one. And then Adney spoke. I was like, okay, maybe she got a point. We are bold now, and we're out there in everybody's space, and we will just tell it. But here's what I would say though, because Alicia brought up a very good point. In a closed group setting, it's easy for the married woman and older women to tell their story, and there's not a lot of judgment. In a private setting, in a setting like this, we have power. But what I feel very strongly is that, we have classes at church for the little bitty kids. They got classes for the teenagers. They have a widows ministry. They have the married couples ministry. And some congregations might have a singles ministry, but most do not. Right? And then there are marriage retreats, there are youth rallies, there are ladies' day programs all over, everywhere. We're going to a big one next month. I mean, it's stuff all over the place. But you know who gets left out? Us. We get left out. And even when there is a singles program, who is there? I'm not looking for no sugar daddy. I'm looking for, I don't need you to take care of me. And I don't want an old man. I don't. I'm just being honest. Okay. I don't want an old man. Nobody, uh, nobody caters to us like they should, because guess what? I would submit that my walk is harder than, say, the married woman's walk. Why? Because she got a man at the house that she can bounce things off of. She got a praying partner in her husband, hopefully. She got a whole community in the brotherhood that is catered to him. But there's not much out there for us. Um, and then when it is something, I mean, oh, I asked God for a few things. Lord, I just want a God fearing, God loving, God serving man. I didn't even tell him I don't want nobody long distance. I don't want anybody with a bunch of little kids. He gotta be this tall. I didn't put none of that in there. So I'm hoping my dreams and my prayer man gonna line up and be the same man, Roz, whenever he send Boaz over here. But there's just nothing out there for us. Nobody thinks about us. But you know what they will do? Look at her with that little tight dress on. Look at her. Every time she come in here, she got to wear them 5-inch heels. Look at her. She get her hair done every week. You always got something to say about us, but you don't want to help us for real. And I'm gonna be quiet because I had a migraine earlier and I don't want it to come back.
You don't want to
Thank
get another one. Someone put in on Facebook that they don't understand why married couples are over single ministries. Kendra and Kim, I want to hear from you all first, and then I want us to address that question.
Yeah, so I think the total opposite. I think when you are single, you have nobody to tell you what is okay to say and not. Other than guys saying, "Okay, that was too far or not too much." I don't have anybody just to consult. Should I talk about my alcoholism? Should I talk about having sex and drinking all the time? Should I talk about the demonic dreams? Like, I don't have to be somebody else, not have to say like, "Yeah, it's cool." Because in marriages, there are certain things you may deal with that nobody should know. You ain't supposed to know. And there are certain things that people can say, in settings to say this is how it went. I think sometimes um, we forget that even when we were going through things, we didn't talk about it. We didn't share it. Some of us, it was our first time, even this book, sharing something that was vulnerable or something that they had never shared before. So sometimes I think we get too hard on the older women, forgetting the generation that they actually grew up in, and forgetting that if they're not in the social media industry, they're not in the social media world. Like, we grew up with the phone. So if they grew up in a totally different era, you can't be mad at how they grew up, you know. And so we grew up in an era where everybody sees each other every single day on Facebook, or when you're talking at school, all of it is always out in the open. So it's much more easier to me to be able to say those things. If I was married and we were going through things, I dare not talk about it. I would not, unless it was detrimental. It's me and you. We talking about this thing, and if we got to bring in counselors or something like that, but it ain't for you to know unless we're doing a marriage ministry or something like that. So I think there's levels to all of this. But I think the older women, I think they have done a well job of trying to teach us the Bible. Sometimes they may not have showed us the practical applications of today. They may not have showed us what it meant for us, but I'm sorry, the Bible gives you clear instructions on life. So we can't be but so um, aggressive towards older women when they're giving what they have. And so far, a lot of us, even as millennials, we still have only given what we have. We still haven't given everything that we should. So we have to like fully balance that out. But I think as a single, it's easy. And I could have a singles ministry at my congregation. I probably wouldn't be a part of it, honestly, because when I do get a husband, I don't know how to treat him. You know what I mean? Like, I don't need it. But I think we have to be honest about and realize the generations, what they've actually gone through. And then it makes more sense that we're more open, and it makes more sense that the generation behind us is even more open. So I think we have to put that into consideration. But to me, it's easy as a single to do whatever I want.
All right, Miss Kim, and then Alicia.
And I was about to say, I like the way Kendra put that as well, because I will say that it's like there's been some type of there's a shift when it comes to women being more accepted when it comes to speaking out. Because I would say back then, I grew up in a congregation during a time where when marriage was very sacred, like, and there was certain things that women did not share at the time because of their respect to their marriage, right? So if you married to someone and your husband is telling you, hey, what we go through is what we go through, then it's kind of hard for them to be able to even have a voice to share. So it has shifted a lot. But I think the issue when you I guess sometimes the issue is when you have sometimes older women, they can be very judgmental towards the younger women. They can. And I think that's when the issue comes where, if I'm doing something, then pull me to the side and teach me the right way to do it, or come to me in love and share with me how I can do things better. Because I'll never forget the time where, I was coming up in the church and a fairly older congregation. The congregation I'm with now, we fairly young congregation. So, and it's totally different. And I never forget, we had young teens that got pregnant, in their teen years, and instead of some of the older sisters, pulling them to the side and just talking to them, they passed judgment, right? They pass judgment on them, and they out there doing this and they out there doing that. But at the same time, if the Bible is telling you to teach the young, that's the time for you. Even though you and no disrespect to anyone, when I got older, I started asking questions. I asked my mom, like, well, Mom, where is such and such husband? And my mom was telling me, well, they're not married. And I started putting two and two together. And I was like, oh, but they got a child, never been married. But at the same time, you talked about this younger teen so bad that I thought in my mind, oh, but that was a perfect time for them to be open and say, hey, I went through this. And I think that's the disconnect when we do see younger people go through things, and as an older person, we never open our mouths to say, hey, I went through that, right? So even with me being I'm 38 years old, but I do have some younger sisters in the church in their 20s, and they look up to me. So I always tell them, hey, I commend you for your faithfulness. Like they faithful, they in ministry, they this, that, and the other. And I be honest and open. I said, because when I was your age in college, the only time I went to worship was when I came home on the weekends, when I was just being open and honest with them, because I want them to know that, hey, there was a time when I was 20 some years old and I was not as faithful. I was not as faithful. And I always tell, we have to be mindful, because sometimes we get spiritual amnesia when it comes to the things that we went through. And even when you have a sister or brother that strays away, and then you hear people talk about, well, they should be this and they should be that. But at the same time, you got the same story that a couple of years ago, you strayed away too. That's a perfect example of that's a perfect example of taking that time to stop, not get that spiritual amnesia, and hold this person by their hands and let them know that, hey, I've been through it. Let me help you. So I think that's the disconnect, and that's the reason why there is like some tension, or that's the reason why you hear things that come off a little rough, because sometimes it is judgmental when it comes to the older sister versus the younger sister. There's kind of like a judgment there.
Sometimes we miss those teaching moments, and I agree. Yeah, yeah. All right, Alicia, and then Denise and Adney.
Okay, I was going to address the question about why married people are involved with the singles ministry. Being a single ministry coordinator and working on another singles committee, we need them, believe it or not for them to overly take over the ministry, but we do need their input. There might be kind of like having that deacon and that elder. They're pretty much there to keep us on task, make sure that we're not doing anything out of line. Not that we intentionally would, but kind of like when we're thinking as a woman, we're doing things based off of what this man would receive. That man thinks totally different than we do. We don't have that input until we talk to a man to know that what we're thinking is that we're not giving that. So that's where the married piece comes in. We need their input. Some of us do not desire to get married. Some of us do, and they have that input that they can help guide us and push us in a direction that would help instill both, holding fast and just staying single. And then for those that are seeking marriage, how we can get that and also cater to the other group as well. I hope that helps.
I love that. I love that from a personal perspective. Okay, Denise, go ahead.
Yeah, I forgot what question I was answering. Well, first I want to say I grew up at a weird time, or maybe I was before my time. I'm 51, so I grew up in 1971. And I used to always ask questions. I always question things, and I always voice things, and I was always hushed. Denise, you don't need to say this. So I grew up in a really strange time, but I've always been this way. So I'm not, what generation? I think I'm Generation X. I'm not a millennial, but I have a slight millennial like personality. So it was very hard for me growing up. And I'm so thankful that I've caught up, or, the life has caught up with me or something, because now I feel like I'm in a safer space, which I didn't before. I think I took the question a little differently, like whose story would have more, people would hear more or appreciate, or however it was worded. I took it as like who gets the respect or the believe, do they believe their story or respect it or will take something from it. And from that perspective, I see often the married older women would get a little more respect, or, people would sit and listen, because for some reason people put married women at another level than just at a different status than single women. And I think that we all have something valuable to share. And I can understand that because they do have now a different experience than I have. So I can see that to an extent. But in terms of judgment, I think it's because I'm in this age range. I think there is not disrespect, but I think there's judgment, definitely from older women. I think there's judgment from younger women, and I'm hoping that we can, of the older women. I think sometimes older women are misunderstood, and this is just something that I'm learning now, because we don't really fully grasp the generation that they are from. Just talking with my mom, when you can talk with your mom when you're older, you understand your mom a lot more. And you see why she did the things that she did. And just in the African-American culture, a lot of times, and we've got to break this, so I'm not saying that we still need to keep it, but people did things because they're trying to protect you, and they're also trying to prepare you. So they talk tough. They say things to you in a certain manner that comes off in not a great way, because they're trying to toughen your skin. And like I told Kim, I'm not tough. I'm soft. My skin, everything about me soft. I'm a crybaby. You can't make me, I'm tough in a way that God has made me courageous, but I'm not tough in the conventional sense. And so I think sometimes we just have to understand why that's how they were talked to, that's how they thought they needed to come off. And again, it's not right, but I think that some women, not all, I think when they say things to us, they're coming from a place of love. And I think that when we can have that relationship with them, maybe we could come to them at a place from love and say, I appreciate what you told me because it was truth. Maybe it could be said a little different, because every young woman's not going to be the same as myself or have that same relationship.
Love it. All right, Arvelia. What was that, Dawn? Oh no, go ahead. You're right. Okay.
Was up before mine.
Uh-huh.
I know she's looking, she can't see me. I think the reason I shared what I shared was I've had experience personally with older women, and I had to check them. I literally had to say to them, I'm younger than you. If I'm doing something that you think is incorrect, tell me. Don't talk about me. I don't need 5 or 6 different people coming to me telling me something when you feel a certain type of way. So that's why I said what I said. A lot of times, yeah, they older women grow up. Baby boomers, they have a way that they grew up. But at the same token, look at the times. It's the same way we have technology in the church. Back in the day, it wasn't so. So as the time grows, it's your responsibility to grow with the times. You can't take what happened in 1960 and bring it in 2023, because the Gen Zs, I have three of them in my family that'll check me real quick. And I'm like, okay, let's have a discussion. All it takes is an opportunity for a discussion. The problem is you don't want to have the discussion. No one is Rosalind Green Price. No one is Aretha Cleveland. You understand what I'm saying? Because again, like I said, what happens in this house stays in this house. You want to talk about a girl like me who had a baby at 14, when number one, the sin wasn't the baby that I had. The sin was the sex that I had, that you never opened your mouth to have a conversation with me about, knowing that your daughter was doing the same thing, but yet you was talking about me when your daughter is pregnant too. That's the problem. That's the disconnect. Don't judge what somebody else's child is doing when yours is doing the same thing to cover her stuff up. That's the problem. That's the disconnect. We need to get to a place where we come to a commonality, where we can honestly have a real adult Christian discussion and understand what true love means. Yeah, we read this Bible, but we forget that God is a God of love, and he's also a God of wrath. If I'm doing something wrong, it is your responsibility as my older sister to tell me, hey, Adney, you wrong. You need to get that right. Now, as far as the married over the single, I absolutely love married couples over the singles ministry. Why? Because they were once single. They went through what we went through. They understand what we're dealing with, whether we believe it or not. I ain't talking about those that have been married 50 something years. They don't work because they forgot. But I'm talking people who've been married 5, 10, 15, 20 years because they still remember. That's why a married couple over a singles ministry works, because they understand what we're going through.
Okay. Someone said that, excuse me, we need to bridge the gap. And the reality is that it's funny. The reality is we're in meetings where everyone is carrying an AARP card. Okay, I had to say that. Okay. And that we need to engage younger women. I agree. Some of the meetings are younger, older women, but bridging the gap, having those conversations, I think is a key there. Even though you have the older ones, you have the middle age, then you have the younger ones, but work together. But that takes, no matter what your age is, changing, having a mindset to receive, because you have to always remain teachable. Even if you're a leader, also be able to be a follower. Because if you can't do them both, you're just not going to hear it. Okay? Go ahead, baby. Yeah, baby. Mm-hmm. You can go ahead, baby.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was having problems with this button. All right. And I was going to say, am I the baby you talking about? Okay.
Yeah, all of y'all babies. All of y'all younger than me. Even though Denise thinks she grown, you're a baby to me too still. I'm still going to call her baby.
I will address the married couples over the single ministry.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with everybody that has already said yes to that, because and Adney put it into great. She worded it perfectly. They've been where we have been, where we currently are, and they are where we want to go. They can provide guidance to us. And as far as bridging the gap, sometimes you have to be the bigger person and build the bridge. So when I've changed membership twice, and at each of those congregations that I place membership with, I like old people. Don't judge me. I just feel like they can pour much more into me spiritually and just in life, period, than someone my own age. Because I want to live a long life, but I don't want to be a fool doing it. So that's why I look for them. So I do look for those that old couple that looks really, really cute. And they be holding hands and they be at all the Bible studies, all of everything. Yes, that's the couple that I be looking for. So if you got a grandma or an uncle or auntie, that get with them. Okay, that's my advice. I currently have two couples at my church that I feel as though our relationship is where if I came to them with a problem or a dilemma or just confused about a certain subject that could affect my Christianity or my walk with God, they could give me the guidance that I needed, and then they would also feel that our relationship is on a level where they can be vulnerable and open up to me about past experiences. So, yes to all of this. You can't move forward without having the past, and they are the past. You can't. So
Love it. Alicia?
Okay, I was just gonna co-sign with what Denise, the listener, Arvelia, and everybody else that hinted on the age differences. I feel I'm at that weird age where I'm like in between. But talking to the different single people, sometimes the older folks, I've noticed that from my experience, they're not engaged and they're not involved in different things. The young group, they take off. They're good. They're always going to do something. The people of my age is kind of hit or miss. But the reality of it is we all need each other. And the minute that we think we don't, because I know recently it was the young folks were like, well, why don't we just connect with our own group? And I said, but you're missing out on that older knowledge. You don't have that knowledge. So to forego their input, you're hurting yourself. And vice versa. They need the young folks' input because guess what? Maybe they don't have that input. Maybe they have estranged children or who knows what that is. We all need connection. We all need that godly love. And sometimes we don't get it from our blood family. We need it from our spiritual family. So just don't discount. I tell all the older women, please, we need that Titus teaching that y'all are, oh, the young folks don't want us there. We need y'all, regardless of what we want, we need them. And they're not engaging. And pray that they'll start engaging and realize we need them.
That's right. Bridging the gap. That's it. I love it. Go ahead, Kim.
And just to add on, because I agree with everyone, it's the fact that we know they have the knowledge and wisdom. And I think we have the zeal to hear and to learn and to sit at their feet to take it all in, because when I say the wisdom, they have the wisdom. Like they do, without a doubt. And what I'm also learning, I can even see the gap being bridged now because even when we look at the calls that we have, even the Zoom calls, many times some of the women we have our seasoned sisters, we have our mid-age sisters, and then we have our young sisters. And the group is very diverse. The group is very diverse. So it's not that they're, our seasoned sister are closed because the gap is being bridged because they're actually coming on a call, they're giving that good feedback, and they're more open now to sharing. They're more open now to sharing. And even with the life study group that I facilitated, I was looking at a very diverse group. I think one of our older sisters was probably in her 70s, right? So I'm sitting in there and I'm thinking, okay, some of the sisters are older than I am. So what can I give to them, right? Of course, we got this book to guide us through it, but one of the sisters actually walked up to me and she said, you know what, sis? She said, I need to start calling you, to get some advice. And she was an older sister, because at the end of the day, when God give us the Spirit, His Word, and when the Holy Spirit is dwelling with us, to me, it doesn't matter what age. I can learn from anybody. If He giving it to us, and our charge is to share it, He's going to give us what we need to share, regardless of what the age is. So what that showed me is that, Kim, even though you're probably younger, you're probably the same age, you still have something to give. And like Sister Rosalind said, that when it comes to having a teachable spirit, being open to hear, regardless of what we face, regardless, because at the end of the day, the enemy wants us to be looked at, okay, we're being attacked, at the end of the day, right? We're being attacked. And they can't teach us nothing, and we can't learn from them, or that's a trick of the enemy to me at the end of the day. But I believe that the gap is being bridged right now, when it comes to us coming together. And yes, I think we had to bring about awareness to that, to say that, hey, we want to hear. We want you to teach us. We open. And sometimes you do have some of the younger sisters that are closed minded, and you can't teach me nothing. I don't want to hear what you have to say because of those bad experiences in the past. But we all have some work to do, as women in the body of Christ.
Yeah. You all have been invited to the Sister Keaton has a Thursday morning class that she does, and her youngest person in the class is 28 and the oldest is 98. And I have been in that class. It's talking about women of the Bible. It's a very powerful, and if y'all have ever sit at her feet, you know what I'm talking about. It's a very powerful class, and the input that you hear in that is not recorded, so the ladies can speak freely as they, comfortable with. But some of the conversations that you hear, and I haven't been in a while, but I could see some of the younger women speaking and some of those older women opening up. So it's happening. That's why I said just don't stop the conversations, because we are listening. And I have to put myself in that we now. Yes, I do. Okay. But yes, listening. So don't stop. Okay. I'm gonna get Kim just spoke, right? Yeah. Renee, and then we're gonna go ahead and ask for you to tell us what I want you all to think about sharing with us what you have going on. Platforms, email. Go ahead, Kim. Renee.
I was just going to say, off of what Alicia was saying, my father taught a sermon a while back, and he was building off of the song, popular gospel song, I Need You to Survive. And he kept saying it after every inch so that all of the different levels inside of the congregation could see we can't move forward without each other. And I think as we talk about the older sisters' knowledge or being said versus the younger sisters, I look at it's slightly different. I look at the parable of the wheat and the tares, because inside of the older generation and inside of the younger generation, there are wheat and there are tares. And I know that I've run into them, and the way that they approach me, I could tell which one you are. And the ones that are there to help me grow, those sisters, those older sisters, they are in my ear, and they've been guiding and sharing the rawness of their stories all along the way of me coming up. And I know I done ran into the tares, and that's where the church hurt, Alicia, has come in over the space of this. But how do I know that I have to go back to this parable often and say, why are they even here? And there's an intention that God has there. And the idea that I also want to say is I have to remind myself of when have I been a tare and I needed to be wheat. And then the Lord has brought me back.
Love it. Y'all have just given us so much information tonight. Now, this is going to be broadcast, okay? I blasted over, like I said, those different platforms that I have with, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, everything. And I want you all to tell me what you got going on. And also send to me email so that I can keep it as well, because in case someone reaches out to me, because your stories are powerful, not just your stories, It's the knowledge that you all have. It's very powerful. So I'm gonna start. I'm gonna see y'all screen may be different than mine, but I'm gonna start with Renee, then Arvelia, then
Can I
Ken.
go first?
Huh?
Because I gotta go. Can I go first? I gotta go.
Okay, go ahead. Uh-huh.
Yeah, so you can always find me at Kendra Dublin. If you just Google Kendra Dublin or Kendra Dublin, Raleigh, North Carolina, you'll find all my stuff. At 9 o'clock tonight in 5 minutes, I'll be on Woman of Faith Prayer Warrior Zoom meeting of Renaissance Church of Christ. So join me there. And our Women's Day is coming up, and I'll be the keynote speaker, and Kelly Neal will be the worship leader. So that's April 1st. But if you ever want to get in contact with me, it's Kendra Dublin. Thank you, Michelle. Just type in Kendra Dublin.
All righty. Thank you so much. Go ahead.
All right.
Mhm.
All right. I think you wanted me to go next. So I'll be speaking at a late Midwestern Ladies lectureship or conference that we're having here in Cincinnati come June, but I'll be speaking to more of the high school students, I believe, somewhere in there. And then other things that I have going on, I am an entrepreneur and I develop fonts that help struggling readers learn to read. So I am on a mission of finishing my technology and testing it inside of adult spaces and child spaces to see if we can't eradicate illiteracy through the power of a font.
I got my mouth open because I just love that. You're gonna have to send me some information about that. I love that. Okay. Go ahead, Arvelia.
My social media handles are Arvelia Elise, both on Instagram and Facebook. Everything that I'm involved in is on my Linktree link on Instagram. So you just press that link and it'll tell you everything I'm involved in.
All right.
So
Love it.
no, when you want to know, just press the link. And I'm currently working on my own solo book. That's
All
it.
right. I'm waiting for that book. I'm waiting for that book. I'm loving it. Go ahead, Kim.
Thank you.
Oh, hello. So I do know what's coming up next Thursday. I will be speaking on a call. I do not have the details, but once I get the details, I will share it out. And another thing that I am working on, I am a leadership consultant. So I am in partnership with Forever Grateful, and we do offer leadership trainings when it comes to business, leadership when it comes to education, anything you're dealing with when it comes to leadership. I am a leadership consultant, and soon I will be launching in partnership with Shanisa Wiggin. We will be launching Divine Empowerment Networks, and we will pretty much be servicing pretty much the same thing, business. It would just be our own partnership and business that we are developing. And stay tuned because I recorded with Call by God podcast, and it should be airing in April. So I will also send that information over once I get the link and information.
Awesome platform. I love Carl by God. Okay. Y'all need to check that out. That's Adney's. She's affiliated with that too. She can get you more information on that. That's one that you really. It's a very good part. It's a good platform. Go ahead, Michelle.
Sorry, I was looking something up. Well, since Kim said she was gonna be on the Call Back God podcast, I'm gonna be on there at some point in April too. I do have a podcast and a website, 99 Ways to Win, where I empower women to navigate life with biblical principles, critical thinking, and a healthy dose of grace. And as you probably already know, also humor. So you can check me out at 99waystoWin.com. I dropped a link, and that's pretty much my thing.
All right, now y'all doing y'all thing. Go ahead, Adney. You still here? Can you still available to talk?
I am still available to talk. Everyone already said about the Call by God podcast. I am the co-host of the Call by God podcast. My host is Nixon Silvani. We actually, our episode aired, today's Monday on Esau. So please go listen to that. That was the bomb, recording that. Launching My Womb, My Choice on July the 8th, the date my brother would have turned 49. Butterfly Kisses is definitely coming, still working on that. And launching Save One prayerfully with the congregation that I currently attend. And of course, if you don't know what Save One is a abortion recovery ministry. But with Butterfly Kisses, it is more of me speaking and going to these different platforms to share abortion recovery with women in corporate America. Because one thing I've learned going through this journey with Save One was that a lot of times people are angry and they don't know why. And some of them have had abortions, and because of the trauma of abortion, it's time for healing. That's literally what it's all about. It's time for us to get healed.
Awesome. Awesome. Waiting for it. Miss Denise.
Yeah, I don't have any upcoming events. All my events, my last one was yesterday. I'm in a time of transition in my life, and I'm really just drawing close to God and having a close relationship with Him and working on things within myself. However, I am an author, and I have two digital books. They are on Amazon, and so you can read those. I write fiction primarily, and I have a children's book that if you're interested in getting, it's called Beautifully Made, Abby's First Pageant. I have copies of those as well that you can get from me directly. My handle on Instagram is dbooknerd. So it's like DBOOK nerd. And then I also have a YouTube channel called The Book Nerd. It's not as active at this time. So an avid reader, avid author. My goal is to write romance and other fiction that Christian women can read and just that speaks more to us. It might not always be specifically Christian, like talking about Jesus all the time or anything like that, but just things that Christian women can read, because I like to read. I'm reading things a lot that, a little tricky. So with my faith. So those are the things that I'm doing. Keep me in prayer. I'm looking to be moving across country. So just keep me in prayer.
I heard you say that some things are not exactly Christian. You know what? Sometimes we got to meet the people where we can meet the people too.
Amen.
Okay, and sometimes you got to get a little dirty to meet the people. So don't ever think that's a bad thing, because we are called to go out to the sick, not to stay within the peanut gallery. So that's a good thing. So okay. All right, Miss Alicia.
All right. You can find me on Facebook under Alicia Martin Swing. And then I don't have anything, but with I'm again the singles coordinator at Forest Hill. Some of our events are virtual. So if you're looking for a group, and I try to stay on top of it with things going on throughout the country. So you can find that at Forest Hill COC Singles Ministry on Facebook. And we'd love to have you. And if you can come to the things and or share your events, we would love that.
Awesome. Miss Dawn.
Good evening. So I don't my Instagram handle. I just learned tonight that it's a handle. Anyway, tag whatever it is. It's my name on there. Ever EBER _so _lovable_Dawn. Ever so lovable Dawn is my Instagram handle. And on Facebook, you can just find me by putting my name in there. It's Dawnielle, AWNIELLE. Last name Dockery, Hickory Dickory Dockery. That's me. So I am one of the co-hosts for the Young Adult Sisters Prayer Call. We host every Thursday of the month at 8:30 Eastern Standard, 7:30 Central Standard Time. We have different guest speakers every week. So if you have a chance, I usually share the flyer with the girls in our chat, our text group. Also, I am speaking at the 36th Annual Ladies Lectureship Retreat that's coming up in Atlanta. I am speaking that Thursday night, and then also teaching the tweens and teens girl classes throughout the weekend. Super excited about it. uh, eager to see and am praying that God will give me very good listening ears, give me discernment and wisdom to say the right thing to these young girls, because this is a time in their life where they're very impressionable. And I want to make sure well, not me, but God, make sure that God speaks through me to give them what they need during this time.
Amen. Show of hands, who's going to the retreat? I know Dawn. Who else is going to the retreat? Oh, nobody? Oh, wow. Okay. I was hoping I
I
could
just
see.
found out.
Huh? You just found out about it? Who said that? Adney?
Alicia
That
did.
was me. Yeah,
Oh,
Wait,
Lisa.
Alicia. Okay.
so we're not going to have a vendor table there for the book?
Stand by for more information.
Okay, I was about to say, well,
I'm
I'll
the
get
vendor
somebody to
coordinator.
run.
Contact me.
I
That's what
know,
I was.
right? I know. I was about to say, let me know and I'll find somebody to run the table. But yeah, okay, cool.
You got a table if you want. Well, you got that's a needed thing. I'm telling y'all, that's a good thing. Now the queen. Go ahead, Miss Kim.
Um, we are so excited because we are bringing the collaborative book project in a different way, partnering with Shanisa Wiggins and Kendra Dublin. We're bringing the They Must Know Launch Your Ministry, Publish Your Book coaching program that's going to launch in April. We've been doing lives about it on our own personal social, but what we're really excited about is the potential of this to help Christian women really walk into that full purpose that God has for them with the ministry that God has placed on their heart to launch and the book that He's called them to write. And so we're launching a 12-week program that will go from April to July. So excited about that. So it's kind of a different iteration of Joyfully Courageous in a way because, well, it's a different collaborative project that will include work with 3 different coaches. And so very excited about that. Also, I will be am doing a pilot program for different churches that sometimes it's in person for those who choose and also virtually. It's a coloring book experience that really hones in on mental health hygiene practices so that we do not get in crisis or we do not get into that anxiety and depression that many Black women, many women in general suffer from. And so that's something that I'm doing within my own work. But I'm really excited about this, about the coaching program that's coming. So I hope that all those listening will definitely have more information about that. Jesus Sprinkle meets every Saturday at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time, 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And what we're pivoting to is really transparency about transformation. As you can see, Joyfully Courageous had something to do with transformation for all of us. But what I'm realizing that God is doing is He's asking us and calling us to be transparent about how we transform, why we transform, what did what tools did we have out there to help us. And so that's what Jesus Sprinkle will be doing both on the Facebook page and in the Zoom calls that we do. And so very excited about what Jesus Sprinkle is doing. All right, that's it. Thank you.
I love it. I love it. And family, if y'all didn't get all of that, because y'all see these are some busy ladies here. They shared a lot of information. Okay. So if you want to get that information, because they're gonna send it to me, right, ladies? Raise your hand, y'all gonna send it to me, right? Okay. All right. So, or if you want to be added to the Real Talk Now family, visit me, my Facebook page, hashtag Roz Real Talk Now, or on IG, YouTube, TikTok, hashtag Real Talk Now Roz. Ladies, I want you all to stay right there. Family, you all make it a good one.